So my name is Anotida Madzvamuse. I'm professor of mathematics at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada. My area of research is applied mathematics with applications to cellular biology, developmental biology, and it has applications in cancer, research, inflammation, wound healing, and so on.
What is one exciting thing about being a mathematician?
So I'm an applied mathematician, as I said earlier on. So I'm excited, about creating new mathematical models from data, from observations that are amendable to rigorous mathematical analysis, if we can. And this will involve pure mathematics. So some of the work that I'm doing involves areas such as differential geometry, just pure, analytical analysis really of PDs. So that's one part that excites me, coming up with new mathematical models. I also, once we have these models, we, in many cases we cannot analyze them, and I also spend a lot of time developing new numerical methods or calibrating current numerical methods to provide approximate solutions to these models. And the new mathematics should act as a predictive model or toolkit for experimentalists or public health analysts or other people, depending on their problem where you've derived these mathematical models. So they should really help to refine hypothesis testing, refining, exploring avenues where normally experimental manipulations cannot address or cannot measure, and therefore in mathematics there's nothing. Once you have the models, you can really play around with them and to explore other sort of scenarios which experimentally you cannot do. So I think that's the most exciting thing, to see the usefulness of mathematics in other disciplines. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I agree a lot with you because I'm applied mathematician as well. So did you have a role model that motivated you to become a mathematician or someone you look up to? How has this influenced your path?
It's a difficult question. I've had several people who have inspired me to do mathematics, but really, I think mathematics was something that I could only do in high school. In all my subjects, it was the only subject that I could do better. And I realized earlier on that really my career was in mathematics. And so, but I've been lucky enough to meet very prominent research, mathematicians. Dr. David Henwood who was at the University of Zimbabwe. Professor Mark Roberts, he was there as well. They introduced me to finite elements as well as mathematical biology very early on when I was doing my BSc honors degree. At Oxford, I was also very lucky, in fact, to work with Professor Andrew J. Watton and Professor Philip K. Miney, who empowered me with the knowledge that has since shaped how I approach really mathematical modeling and numerical analysis in my research to some extent. Over the years, I've learned quite a lot from Professor Charles Elliott, who is at Warwick on geometric surface PDs, as well as from Leah Endestel Keshet from UBC in the areas of analysis of cell polarization. A cell doesn't know what is front or back, and therefore, using mathematics, we are able to identify, how the cell can identify itself as, okay, I have to move in this direction versus that direction, and through the use of mathematics. And this has been quite fruitful working with Leah at UBC as well. So, I've been extremely lucky in many ways to work with some really high powered mathematicians who have shaped in many ways my career, and pathways.
What obstacles have you encountered along your journey in science that you believe are specific to lack of diversity, and how did you overcome them?
That's a very good question. That's a very difficult question to answer, but I think in many ways, as a researcher, as an academician, faculty member at a university, the Department of Mathematics, funding is a big issue. Securing grants, research grants, is a big issue. And so during my early years, it was very difficult to secure money, to secure funding. You cannot support your research without sufficient funding. And that has been a significant sort of hurdle. I have managed to overcome that in the last 13 years through just really, resilience, perseverance, and learning how to write a winning grants. It's like an art. It's very difficult to teach, and so one has to go through the experience of not winning so many, and then trying to find out how best to address those reviewers' comments to be able to be competitive. Another part of my career that has really not been so exciting to even to talk about is the promotion from junior to senior positions, and I have realized in my past jobs that it was such a difficult process to be promoted from a lecturer, senior lecturer, and so on. Even if you demonstrate the minimum, the requirements that you meet the requirements, but for some unknown reasons, it just didn't happen. And looking back, there are many examples of people who are promoted at the same institutions, same places, who have far less credentials than I had. And this I think is something that as an academician, again, you have just to learn to cope with this and work your way up it's not a nice thing to talk about, but these are the challenges that people face in promotion. Also, just getting jobs in other universities, it's really very difficult. Even when you go to panels and you meet, you think you're successful, but then it turns out that you're not offered the job. But again, you can never point one finger at what is the reason for this, but these are challenges that people have to sort of learn to cope with, and as I said, be resilient and not to give up as you move up the ladder. Yeah.
Reflecting on the challenges in your career, is there any advice for aspiring or early mathematicians who are facing the same obstacles?
Yes. My advice is, to believe in your abilities, strengths, in yourself. Really, I think we need to recognize in ourselves that we are better than what we are. I mean, than what other people might think. I think believing in your own abilities is something that's critical, and to not be put off by failures. You apply for grant, you fail to get them. You should not stop applying. Just keep on applying, because you learn from your failures than you do from your successes, and therefore it's important, I think, to continue to even if you're not so successful, you should continue to work to the best of your ability, and that should bring some rewards in the future.